9 heartwarming pickup trucks with hidden problems revealed amazing transformations await. In the heart of Maple Grove, rumors spread like wildfire when the charity contacted Jake. 9 trucks, each with its own tale of wear and tear. This wasn't just a job. It was a chance to breathe life into forgotten dreams. Faces lit up as Jake gathered his family around the dinner table. "We can do this, together," he exclaimed, hoping they could revive not only those trucks but the spirit of a community dampened by hard times. Sarah smiled, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Their teenagers, Kevin and Lily, exchanged glances, suddenly swept up in the excitement. Each truck told a story. The veteran, Tom, who had seen more trouble than he cared to remember, just needed wheels to get to therapy. The single mother, Mia, drove her kids around in a rusty old thing that sputtered more than it ran. Jake pictured the smiles that would greet them once he worked his magic. Every repair will reflect who we are as a family and who we are as Maple Grove, he thought. As they dove into the project, the intimate chaos of their garage wrapped around them like a warm blanket. But fixing these trucks would not be easy. Jake found a hesitation gathering at the corners of his heart as broken engines emerged, exposing problems deeper than just rust. Despite the gloom gathering in the corner of his mind, he pressed on, fueled by love and determination. He laughed as the kids got grease on their faces, calling it war paint. Their giggles echoed in the garage, but doubts loomed larger than ever. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Night after night, they toiled. Welds cracked under pressure. Rival mechanic Tony smirked from across the street. "Junky trucks?" he sneered. "Good luck with those." Each derisive laugh gnawed at Jake's confidence. The stress mounted, but the hope that lined the faces of the families waiting for those trucks kept him going. Then the storm hit. Fierce winds whipped through Maple Grove, rattling homes and spirits alike. But as the rain poured down, something incredible happened. Neighbors came together. They braved the storm to lend a hand, eager to support Jake and his family. The garage buzzed with energy. Laughter mixed with the sound of the rain tapping on metal, creating a rhythm of unity that pushed back the storm's grasp. Amidst the chaos, Jake felt a shift. As he looked around at the faces of the townsfolk, determination sparked within him. This was about more than restoring trucks. It was about breathing hope into lives that felt broken. But the question clawing at him was, could they pull through in time? Could love, family, and the spirit of Maple Grove be enough? As the storm raged on, uncertainty loomed, and Jake knew this was just the beginning. The following morning, sunlight spilled into the garage, dispelling the remnants of the storm like forgotten worries. The laughter and chatter from the previous night lingered in the air, a reminder of togetherness that Jake clung to. He took a deep breath and surveyed the scene. Tools lay scattered, but the sight of those 9 trucks ignited a renewed sense of purpose in him. "Let us get to work," he called out, summoning his family. Sarah was already there, coffee in hand, a champion of enthusiasm, ready to dive in head first. Kevin and Lily joined him, faces glowing with hope. As they gathered around the first truck, a grizzled old Chevy, Jake started to explain what needed fixing. "This beauty has a heart that needs a little TLC," he said, ruffling Kevin's hair. "Just like all of us." They lifted the hood and were met with a scene that could spell defeat. Rusted components and tangled wiring stared back, but Jake refused to flinch. "Every part of this truck has a history," he reminded them. "If we can understand it, we can help it." With tools in hand, they worked together, the rhythm of clanging metal and cheerful chatter filling the garage. Each bolt tightened, each wire reconnected was like stitching up scars, healing wounds not just in the trucks, but within the community around them. As the day wore on, their progress became evident. Lily shouted in joy when, after a few tries, the old engine roared to life. It was a sound that echoed hope, igniting smiles that brightened the garage. "See, just like the community," she exclaimed. "We just need a little love to come back to life." Jake felt a lump in his throat. It wasn't just about the trucks anymore. It was about revamping their spirit. Each truck became a canvas, painted with strokes of shared laughter, mingled sweat, and heartfelt determination. However, peace is a fleeting thing. Later in the afternoon, Tony sauntered by, leaning against his shiny new rig. "You really think you can make those heaps run?" His words dripped with mockery as he crossed his arms. This time, instead of sinking into discouragement, Jake stood tall. "Watch us," he replied, his tone steady but charged. "We'll show you what can happen when a community comes together." The challenge hung in the air, igniting a fire in Jake's belly. With their eyes on the prize, they worked feverishly for the next few days, pouring sweat and heart into each vehicle. The neighbors kept joining in. Some brought food, others tools, all infused with the unyielding spirit of Maple Grove. But as they neared the finish line, Jake began to sense something darker lurking beneath the surface. The deadline approached, and with it came the adrenaline of achievement mixed with the dread of unforeseen setbacks. Would they really finish in time? And what if something went wrong, jeopardizing the joy they sought to bring? As he wiped his brow, Jake felt the weight of hope and fear balance on a knife's edge. Each truck was more than metal and machinery. They carried the dreams of families on their backs. And now, it was all coming down to the moment when he had to face his own doubts. What if they could break the barriers of expectation and surprise everyone, including Tony? Or would this effort end in disappointment, transforming their dreams into rust? The truth was just around the corner, waiting for them to take that leap of faith. Would they find the strength to overcome the final hurdles? Could love triumph over adversity? Jake felt it building, and he knew that whatever happened next would define more than just their project. It would forge the very heart of Maple Grove. The next morning brought a sense of urgency. The sun peeked through the garage windows, bathing the scene in a soft golden light that contrasted with the heavy shadows of worry lingering in Jake's mind. Days had passed, and while the trucks were making progress, the deadline loomed like a storm cloud threatening to burst. Jake stared at the old Chevy's hood, half open and glaring back at him. They were close to finishing, but he felt it, the pressure building, the expectation mounting. The community's faith rested on their shoulders, and he didn't want to let anyone down. Lily was tinkering with another truck, a blue Ford that had seen better days. Kevin came over, holding a wrench too big for his small hands. "Dad, I think I can fix this." His voice was filled with determination, innocence wrapped in hope. "I believe in you, buddy," Jake smiled, ruffling Kevin's hair again. But inside his heart raced. What if that hope crumbled when reality set in? As they worked, a steady stream of neighbors drifted in and out of the garage. Some brought snacks, urging them on with encouragement, while others offered their expertise, ready to help wherever they could. The laughter and chatter mixed with the clatters of tools created a symphony of effort and camaraderie. "Got it," Lily shouted, startling Jake from his thoughts. The engine sputtered, then roared to life with a triumphant growl that echoed off the garage walls. They all cheered, the sound of victory ringing clearly. But just as quickly as the joy surged, it was pierced by an unexpected sound, a sharp crash outside. Jake rushed to the garage door, heart in his throat. He found Tony standing by his flashy new rig, a smirk plastered across his face, now holding a shattered hubcap. "Oops," Tony called out, eyes glinting with mockery. "Looks like my truck can't take this neighborhood's charm." Fear, anger, and frustration built a wall around Jake. He realized that for every spark of progress, there seemed to be a shadow lurking, waiting to pull them down. He stepped outside, squaring his shoulders and breathing in the cool air, trying to extinguish the flames of doubt before they engulfed him. "Your truck might look good, Tony," Jake said, calm but resolute. "But it's the heart that counts. Our community is strong. What we're doing here means something." The atmosphere crackled with tension as Tony rolled his eyes dismissively. Yet, something in Jake's voice had shifted. It wasn't just about the trucks anymore. It was about proving to everyone, especially to himself, that they could rise above the setbacks. Determined, Jake returned to work, driven by a newfound fire. They divided tasks, laughter mingling with concentration as they pressed on, night falling around them, but spirits soaring higher than ever. With every bolt tightened and every paint stroke applied, they weren't just changing machines. They were transforming lives. And they were doing it together. But just as they fitted the last piece onto the final truck, A loud crash brought the whole operation to a halt. They all turned, hearts racing. What had happened now? Jake's stomach dropped. The evening's triumph felt suddenly precarious. That's not good, someone murmured, a chill creeping into the air. Jake braced himself. Could this be the straw that broke the camel's back? He caught a glimpse of Tony snickering in the distance, and a thought sliced through his concern. Maybe they wouldn't bend under pressure after all. Maybe that was the moment they were waiting for. Could they turn this around, or would it all slip away in an instant? As Jake looked around at his family and neighbors, he felt a flicker of determination. This was Maple Grove. Nothing could hold them back if they stood together. But first, they needed to find out just how deep the trouble ran. What lay ahead could change everything. The sound of metal scraping against concrete resonated in the night air. Jake's heart raced as he turned toward the source of the noise, his mind spinning with possibilities. Could something have fallen? Was another truck damaged? As he moved through the shadows, he felt the weight of the moment draping over him. It was unsettling and electrifying all at once. What he found took his breath away. One of the trucks they were so close to finishing was leaning precariously on a stack of tires. The jack had slipped, and the vehicle crumpled to one side, framing a chaotic picture of what could go wrong in an instant. The laughter and chatter faded, swallowed by the sudden dread echoing through the garage. "Is everyone okay?" he called out. He scanned the crowd. Lily, Kevin, and their neighbors all frozen in a mix of disbelief and concern. "Yeah, we're fine," Lily replied, shaking off her shock. "But that truck, what happened?" "It's a mess," Kevin said, his voice soft, but Jake could hear the faint tremble. The large shadows under their eyes came alive with worry. Jake crouched next to the truck, inspecting the crumpled fender, the glassy surface reflecting the glow of the overhead lights like a fractured mirror. Each crack, each dent, the history of struggle etched into the metal like their lives. "We just have to be careful," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. It felt like the ground beneath him had shifted, and he was clutching at anything stable. Behind him, a murmured conversation sparked among the neighbors, voices rising in agitation. Jake felt that the unspoken doubts creeping into the hearts of his team. He had to address it. He had to refocus them. "Listen up, everyone," Jake said, louder now, commanding attention. "This set back the falling truck. It's not the end. It's a wake-up call. It shows us what we can overcome if we work together." A few nodded, a spark of reassurance flickering in their eyes. But Jake could sense the hesitance remaining like a dark cloud. They needed something more tangible than just words. He looked at the faces of his friends and family, taking in their spirit and determination. "All right, here's the plan," he continued. "We'll put the truck back up, fix what's broken, and remind ourselves just how far we've come. Together, one truck at a time. It's not just about the trucks, it's showing us what resilience is." Questions floated through the air, and he saw the flickers of fear in their eyes. Would they dedicate themselves to this renewed effort? Could they move past this setback? Without waiting for a response, Jake went back to the truck. He began directing everyone, their energy shifting as they hurried into action. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the truck anymore. It was more profound. It was a testament to the strength within the community, sharing burdens, lifting each other higher. Together they hoisted the truck up again, carrying it off the ground. The overwhelming feeling of communal strength began to drown out the initial fear. Even Tony's mocking face faded behind the smiles being shared. "Just pull a little harder," Lily encouraged, grunting as they heaved the vehicle upright. With a collective effort, they stood it back on its wheels. Cheers erupted when it finally settled down, a moment of unity washing over them. With hands covered in grease and laughter erupting from the pent-up anxiety, they began discussing the repair plan. What had once felt like a crushing blow became fuel for renewed ambition. But as they settled back into their tasks, Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw a notification that made his heart sink. It was an emergency alert. There was a storm warning for the following day, heavy rain that could cause flooding in Maple Grove. He looked up to see the worry etched into the faces of his family and neighbors again, the earlier victory slipping through their fingers. "Everyone," he said softly, the urgency underlining his words. "We have more work ahead of us than we thought." Could they finish the trucks in time and protect what mattered most before the storm? The clock was ticking, and it felt like fate had dealt its hand. Jake's heart raced as a renewed sense of urgency settled in. He glanced around, noting the worried faces that surrounded him. The camaraderie they just built, the victory over the fallen truck, now felt fragile against the looming storm. "All right, let us focus," he called out, trying to gather everyone's attention. "I want each of you to grab a truck and assess what needs to be done. We have to move fast if we want to beat this storm." Lily was the first to respond. "I can take the rear brakes on that blue one." She pointed, her determination breaking through the earlier tension. "Perfect. And Kevin, can you check the oil and filters on the red truck? We'll need it running smoothly," Jake added, feeling the rhythm of teamwork starting again. "Yes, I got it." Kevin nodded, already hustling for the necessary tools. There was a spark igniting in everyone, and Jake fed off it as they split into groups. Jake found himself next to Tony, still wrestling with a mixture of discomfort and newfound respect. "Look, I know I teased you guys, but I'm in," Tony murmured, pulling on gloves. "Just don't expect me to get all mushy about it." Jake smiled. No mushiness required. Just hard work. Hours flew by. The sound of tools clanging and machinery whirring filled the garage. The air was thick with a mix of hope and anxiety. Jake kept glancing at the sky, a heavy curtain of gray looming like a threat. Every time he heard a drop hitting the metal roof, his heart tightened. "Hey, Jake," Lily shouted, her voice cutting through the cluttered noise. "I think I found something." She emerged from under the truck, smudged with grease but excited. "The brake lines are frayed. If we don't fix this before the rain, we could have a serious problem." Panic gripped him for a moment, but he quickly regained control. "Then let us get to work. We can replace them. Anyone have spare lines?" He looked around, his gaze searching for possibilities. "Yeah, I bought some last week just in case," Kevin chimed in. His voice held a note of pride that made Jake's heart swell. It was the kind of attitude they desperately needed. But as they scrambled to locate the spare parts, the rain began to tap against the roof, rhythmically at first, and then accelerating into a steady downpour. The sounds changed from soft patters to heavy thuds, and with it, the atmosphere thickened with urgency. "Keep at it. We're racing against the clock." Jake shouted over the noise, but inside, his thoughts churned. Would they finish in time? Faces around him showed determination, but the storm felt relentless, hungry for their hard work to wash away. Suddenly, Tony rushed over, excitement radiating from him. "Hey, you won't believe this," he yelled, waving a wrench in the air. "I found something else, an oil leak. If we don't fix this, we're in for trouble when the rain really starts." The group went silent. Jake felt dread pool in his stomach. They were running out of time and answers. "Okay, what do we need?" he asked, feeling the weight of responsibility settle back on his shoulders. Everyone exchanged troubled glances. They were all aware of the stakes, of the ticking clock counting down to disaster. It wasn't just about the trucks anymore. It was about their homes, their families, everything they had fought for. "Let us get the repairs done, everyone," Jake said firmly, rallying them again. "This storm can't take us down. We're stronger than that." But as they hustled and worked, deep down, Jake wondered if they truly had what it took to face the storm ahead. Would the rain drown their hopes, or give them an unexpected chance to rise again? He took a deep breath, glancing at the pouring skies. This was their moment, their real test. Could they withstand the flood of challenges, or were they destined to watch it all wash away? The rain hammered down harder, turning the din of the garage into a chaotic symphony of urgency. Jake directed the team, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of desperation. He could feel the weight of every single person's hopes resting on his shoulders. Each clattering tool echoed the throbbing beat of his heart. "Lily, you're on the brake lines. Kevin, let us tackle that oil leak together," he shouted, motioning for them to gather around the red truck that had already seen better days. They crowded around it, rain pounding above, water streaming down the walls of the garage. Tony handed Jake the flashlight, the beam slicing through the dim spaces beneath the engine. "We need to find the exact spot where it's leaking," he said, dread creeping into his voice. If it's bad, his sentence trailed off, but the unspoken words hung in the air. "Let us hope it's just a loose connection," Jake replied, determination pushing him forward. He slid under the truck, the scent of oil and grease mixing with the salty tang of the rain. There it was, a small pool forming underneath. "Oh man, this isn't good." His heart raced as he examined the leak, a jagged crack in the oil pan that left him feeling cold. He crawled out from under the truck, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. The uncertainty was clawing at him, an unwelcome companion. "We can patch this, guys. Just need some heavy-duty epoxy," Jake encouraged. He met the worried glances from the others, and he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could manage it after all. Lily had already gathered all the brake parts she needed, her focus locked in. "I'm almost done with this," she called out, her voice slicing through the noise of the raging storm. "Good job, Lily. You're a lifesaver." Jake laughed, trying to uplift the mood. He glanced at Tony, who had pulled away from the engine to help Kevin, tightening bolts and checking the oil filter. Their teamwork felt different this time, more like a united front. The garage was a mess of chaos, but it was also filled with the kind of laughter they hadn't shared earlier. Somewhere amidst the drilling and hammering, a sense of family began to weave itself back into their hearts. Kevin popped his head back from around the engine. "I've got this filter. Let us see if we can get that new part." He held it up proudly, despite the grimy stains on his face. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting unsettling shadows. "What is happening?" Tony said, glancing upward as the power flickered. The storm was intensifying, striking fear into their hearts. Would they be left in darkness, unable to finish? Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself. "Stay focused. We won't let that happen," he shouted. They were too far invested, too determined. With painstaking precision, they worked together, chasing the clock against the storm. The rain pattered rhythmically, a constant reminder of the deadline that loomed over them. Jake allowed himself a moment to glance outside. The world was losing its color, turning gray under the heavy clouds. Just as he turned back, Lily hollered, "It's done." She slid out from under the blue truck, her hands weary but proud. The others stopped, their work momentarily forgotten, and they gathered around her, the relief washing over them like the first drops of rain. Then another crash of thunder rumbled outside, loud enough to shake the ground. The power went out completely, plunging them into darkness, pierced only by flashes of lightning. Jake felt the dread return, heavier than before. "We have to finish this now," he shouted, adrenaline fueling his words. As they scrambled in the dark, Jake's heart thundered in sync with the storm outside. What were they going to do now? In that moment of uncertainty, he gripped the flashlight tighter. Could they really pull this off with everything crashing around them? The storm outside was relentless, but was the storm within them even stronger? The darkness felt heavy, a blanket of despair that wrapped around them as they fumbled with tools in the garage. Out there, the rain pounded harder against the metal roof, each drop a reminder of the urgency they faced. Jake focused on the sound, a relentless roar that mingled with the heartbeat in his chest. "Let us move," he barked, his voice rising above the chaos. Tony and Kevin squinted into the shadows, trying to find their bearings. Shadows danced wildly as lightning flashed, illuminating the desperation etched on their faces. "Got it," Lily shouted, her voice slicing through the darkness. "I found the epoxy." She waved the small tube in the air, the tiny beacon of hope glowing faintly in the gloom. "Great. Bring it over here." Jake's heart lifted. If they could just fix that oil pan, they might stand a chance. He crawled back under the truck, the musty scent of damp metal and oil filling his lungs. His hands trembled just a little as he awaited Lily's arrival. With deft hands, she squeezed a dollop of the sticky substance onto the crack. "Is it enough?" she asked, kneeling beside him, her eyes wide with uncertainty. "More than enough," Jake replied, determination hardening his resolve. "Just keep it steady, okay? We can do this." He leaned close, focusing on the task, the world outside fading to just a low rumble, a distant storm that couldn't deter their progress. Outside, the storm surged. Thunder cracked overhead, echoing like an alarm bell. But within the garage, they were cocooned in purpose. Each small success felt monumental. Tony joined them under the truck, his flashlight beam bobbing along. "We need to let it set. No disturbances," he cautioned, his brow creased with shared concern. Time felt like a faulty clock. It stretched and folded as they worked. With every passing minute, Jake's worry flared. "How long do we need to wait?" he murmured, glancing up at Lily. 10 minutes, maybe more," she said, doubt creeping into her voice. "What if it doesn't hold?" "We can't think like that," he urged, brushing dirt from her cheek. "We have to believe." We've come too far to quit now. There was a bond forging amongst them, one strengthened by the storm raging outside that a flash of lightning revealed the flickering of Jake's heart, a wild beat echoing the conflict in his chest. The garage Henty felt like home for ages, but suddenly it was warm with camaraderie, laughter peppered with determination. Just then, Kevin emerged from the shadows. "I found another filter," he declared, almost breathless with excitement. "We can do the oil change now." The brightness in his voice was infectious, sparking threads of hope in the somber atmosphere. "Perfect. Let us get it done." Jake's energy surged. They were a team. Each person's contribution mattered, and together they were far more powerful than the storm battering the building. Lily took the filter from Kevin and began to maneuver it into place. "Just keep your eyes on the clock, guys. Time is against us," she reminded, her focus sharpening. As seconds ticked past, Jake paced anxiously. He could feel the storm's fury intensifying, wind buffeting the garage doors as if nature itself were urging them to give up. Yet their spirits did the opposite. They strengthened with each shout of encouragement. Then, as another crash of thunder reverberated through the air, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the cramped space once more. Cheers erupted like a wave breaking upon the shore, relief flooding their faces. "Now or never," Jake exclaimed, a fire igniting in his belly. They finished the remaining tasks swiftly, the clock now a fierce reminder of their tireless fight. With the last bolt tightened, he turned to the group, eyes bright. "Let us see if it works." They shuffled outside. The rain had lightened, but the air was thick with tension. Jake climbed into the truck, fighting against the nerves that threatened to engulf him. He turned the key, and the engine roared to life, a sound sweeter than any melody. Laughter erupted, the storm within them quelled by success. But as they celebrated, a new rumble echoed in the distance, not thunder, but the sound of something else, something darker. What other challenges awaited them now? The laughter died down, replaced by a heavy silence that enveloped them. Jake peered through the rain-slicked windshield, straining to pinpoint the source of that ominous rumble. The others clung to the moment they had just created, caught between joy and uncertainty. "What was that?" Tony asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Kevin squinted at the horizon, brow furrowed. "I don't know. It sounded like it came from the old quarry." "Maybe it's just thunder," Lily offered, though her tone wavered. The storm had calmed, but a new tension twisted in the air like a coiling snake. Jake's heart raced. They couldn't ignore it. "We should check it out," he said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "I'll drive." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Lily asked, her concern clear in her eyes. "It's better to know than to sit here and wait." Jake shot back, the urgency of the unknown pushing him forward. His friends exchanged glances, uncertainty mirroring in their faces, but he could see they'd follow him. They were all in this together. As he shifted the truck into gear, a spark of belief surged within him. They weren't just friends. They were a family bound by shared struggles. The wheels screeched against the gravel as they powered out of the garage. Rain tapped against the metal frame. A symphony of nature played as they rumbled toward the quarry. The road was slick, each curve inviting a challenge. Jake concentrated, the rhythmic thud of raindrops matching the pounding of his heart. It was a precarious journey, but the thought of facing something unknown drove him to push the truck harder. "Look," Kevin pointed, his voice tinged with awe. Lightning illuminated the rocky outcrop, revealing a massive landslide, debris strewn everywhere like the aftermath of a war. Trees bent and broken lay twisted against the earth, and in the stillness, the terrible rumble cracked the air again like a distant drum. "What happened here?" Tony exclaimed, disbelief etched across his face. Lily's hand tightened on the armrest, her fingers trembling. "It's a lot worse than I thought. What if there are people trapped?" "We have to check," Jake said, the determination rising within him like a storm of its own. "Everyone stay close. We don't know how stable this is." As they navigated the hazards, a sense of heavy dread settled in. The quarry had once been a lively place filled with laughter, a haven for adventures. Now it lay in ruins, a haunting reminder that everything could change in an instant. "Look, over there." Kevin pointed again, eyes wide. A flash of movement caught his attention. Shadows moved among the debris. "Do you see that? Someone might be in trouble." With newfound urgency, they forged ahead, carefully winding their way through the rubble. The rain began to fall harder again, turning the ground to slush beneath their boots. Each step felt heavy with a mix of fear and hope. "Stay alert," Jake urged, scanning the area. "Let us not break apart. We have to stick together." Then, from behind a massive boulder, they heard a faint cry. A shiver crawled down Jake's spine. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Lily nodded, her face pale. Someone is out there. The reality hit them like a punch. They needed to take action. There was no hesitation, no time to waste. Jake stepped forward, feeling the weight of what they were about to encounter. This was more than just a broken truck. It was a test of their resolve, their bravery. The darkness had shifted, revealing a plight that demanded their courage. As they approached the sound, hearts pounding with both fear and determination, the world around them faded. It was just them against whatever lurked in the deep shadows of the quarry. But who or what would they find? The air thickened with the anticipation of the unknown. Would they be ready for whatever came next? Jake's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he took one cautious step after another. The eerie silence hung heavy, interrupted only by the distant sound of rushing water from the storm-swollen creek. Rain dripped from overhead branches, creating a rhythmic symphony that both comforted and unnerved him. He glanced back at his friends. Tony's face was tight, the glimmer of worry nipping at the edges of his determined expression, while Lily's eyes darted every which way, searching for reassurance. "Over here." Kevin's voice broke through the tension, drawing Jake's attention. He saw Kevin crouched low, peering around the boulder. They needed to move swiftly, but something in Jake's gut told him to tread lightly. This was no ordinary rescue. It felt like stepping into a tale woven with both danger and heart. "Is it a person?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "I think so," Kevin replied, his face distorted with concentration. Just a little further they edged closer, limbs moving in sync, an unspoken bond carrying them through. Jake felt the weight of each footfall, the ground squelching beneath them, becoming one with the chaos around. As they finally crested the boulder, a figure emerged from the shadows, small and hunched, cradled among the rock and earth. It was a boy, maybe 12 years old, mud-streaked and wide-eyed. Panic surged through Jake. Their mission was now intensely personal. "Hey," Jake called softly, trying to keep his voice steady. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" The boy's head snapped up, fear evident on his dirt-smudged face. "Please help me. I can't move my leg." Lily gasped, covering her mouth. "Oh no, we need to get him out," Jake said, looking at each of his friends. "Kevin, you and Tony stand by him in case he panics. Lily, we're going to need to lift him carefully." In moments like this, Jake thrived. He sprang into action, fueled by adrenaline, a rush of protectiveness washing over him. "Okay, on three," he instructed, grounding his voice. 1, 2, 3. They moved together, shifting debris and angling the boy into their arms. His groans resonated with Jake, twisting at his heart. This was more than a physical struggle. They were embracing the raw thrill of empathy, the connection they felt in that moment overpowering. "Hang on, buddy," Jake whispered as they maneuvered around the rubble. "You're going to be all right." As they made their way through the unstable quarry, the urgency of the situation rattled them. Jake's mind raced as the boy's breaths came fast, labored with pain. He glanced at Lily, her brow furrowed but determination alive in her eyes. Though the rain blurred their vision, the group became a whirlpool of strength and purpose, each of them pushing through the storm together. Then, just as they reached clear ground, thunder clapped, resonating closer this time. The ground shuddered, a cruel reminder of the quarry's unstable nature. "Quick, we have to move," Tony shouted, panic lacing his voice. "Follow me," Jake urged, adrenaline driving him. They picked up speed, urgency fueling their every step. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the quarry, and a massive chunk of rock teetered overhead. Jake's heart jolted. "Get down," he shouted. They dove, instinctively protecting the boy with their bodies, the world turning to chaos around them. The noise crescendoed, like a monster awakening from slumber, as dust and debris showered them. In an instant, the reality of their bravery intertwined with fear. They pressed against the rain-soaked earth, trembling not just from the torrent, but from the weight of uncertainty. Would their strength hold through this turmoil? When silence reigned once more, Jake dared to lift his head. Was everyone safe? Would they emerge from this more than just survivors? Just then, the boy whispered, "I thought I would die here." Jake felt the tremor in those words. "Not if I can help it," he breathed, resolve sealing itself inside him. But as they began to rise, a low rumble filled the air once again. It wasn't thunder. No, it had a different feel. An unsettling familiarity washed over him. What lay beyond this chaos, waiting to reveal its secrets? Jake felt the tremors beneath his feet, echoing the thunderous threat that lay before them. The quarry whispered danger, but still, they had a boy to save. As the wind howled like a voice of warning, Jake locked eyes with his friends, determination surfacing among the shadows of uncertainty. "Move," he shouted, the urgency anchoring his command. They clambered back to their feet, lifting the boy carefully and carrying him close against the elements. The rain intensified, soaking them through, but every drop felt like energy, a reminder that they were alive, together, fighting against the storm both outside and within. "Almost there," Lily encouraged, her voice barely rising above the tumult, still filled with hope. They forged ahead, weaving through the debris with an unwavering bond that seemed to shimmer like a beacon, guiding them through the chaos. As they reached the edge of the quarry, Jake glanced back, instinctively protecting the boy even more. "You're going to be okay," he reassured him, brushing mud from the kid's forehead. The sight of fear slowly melting away brought a flicker of joy through the haze of despair. Then came another seismic rumble, but this time it was accompanied by startled gasps. A rush of soil cascaded like an avalanche from above, pouring down in a cloud of dust and debris, tumbling dangerously close. Jake's heart raced. "Run," he barked. They sprinted, urgency electrifying every muscle as they pushed the boundaries of fear. It felt like they were running against destiny, the stakes skyrocketing with every desperate breath. "Slide down," Tony yelled, finding a narrow path just ahead. "We can make it to solid ground." The echo of their footsteps thundered like a united army. Jake's mind raced, thoughts a cacophony of worry and hope. How had everything become so chaotic? Just days ago, they'd been fighting for the trucks, and here he was, facing nature's wrath just moments after igniting community spirit. It didn't matter. Their focus was unwavering. With one last heave, they surged uphill the quarry, now a fading echo behind them. Finally, they reached safety, collapsing onto solid ground. The boy lay against the remnants of the earth, breathing ragged but alive. Relief flooded through Jake, washing away doubt like the rain spiraling down. "Is everyone okay?" he gasped, adrenaline fading as reality set in. "Yes," Lily affirmed, still breathless, but her grin illuminated the darkness. Kevin looked at their little group with wide eyes, the thrill of survival edging into happiness. "We did it," he exclaimed, every word bursting with admiration. But before they could revel in the victory, a flash of lightning illuminated the scene, revealing Tony stretched out beside them, wide-eyed and panting. "Thanks, guys." Honestly, there was a new respect in his voice, and Jake felt gratitude swell for bonds formed through adversity. They didn't know how long they stayed huddled together, but beneath the storm's chaos, a newfound sense of unity had blossomed. This family they had created out of shared struggle seemed unbreakable. Jake felt something deep shift within him. The soul of Maple Grove wasn't just in repairing trucks. It lived in moments like this, where fear and hope danced on the same edge. The rain began to slow, and the sky sighed a soft reprieve. "We should check on everyone else," Jake said, breaking the silence. They might be in trouble, too. As they started walking toward home, the world felt refreshed, a horizon edged with silver and gold, the storm laying down its burden. Small smiles illuminated their faces as hope found purchase in their hearts. That evening, as they arrived back at the garage, they were greeted by the community flooding in, faces filled with worry and relief. News of their efforts spread like the wild winds, whispers of what they would face intermingling with tales of triumph. The 9 trucks waited proudly, a testament to what they started and what they could still achieve together. Jake stepped forward, framed by warm lights and countless faces. "We faced the storm and won," he declared, voice steady and strong, the chill of worry unfurling at last. "We're not just fixing these trucks. We're building a community that doesn't back down." Cheers erupted around him, family and friends swept up in an ocean of good spirits and renewed faith. It was more than just metal and machinery. They had rebuilt something deeper, a bond forged in fire and rain. As laughter spilled into the evening air, Jake realized this was the true transformation, their story embedded within every truck and every face that made Maple Grove their home. And with that revelation anchoring his heart, he felt invincible, ready to face not just the storms of nature, but anything life dared to throw their way. They were unstoppable together. Now, are you feeling the spirit of resilience and hope? You need to subscribe now to keep this flame alive. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Let us keep these stories flowing. Comment below with your reactions. What did this journey mean to you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us amplify the power of community stories.